So welcome to everyone who's joining us today from all around the world. My name is Sharon Fisher, President of Soroptimist International. In our first President's Appeal webinar, Exploring the Road to Equality, we shared 6 barriers to gender equality that prevent women and girls from reaching their full potential. We invited you on our virtual bus to visit and learn and become advocates for those women and girls who are left behind. In this webinar, our 4 amazing speakers will take us on a journey into that dark, dark place where girls are exploited for profit. We will shine a light on the trafficking of our girls. It's my pleasure to introduce our first guest, Jackie Shapiro. Jackie has spent 25 years in the NGO community at the United Nations, advocating for advancing the status of women and girls. During that time, she has served in many capacities, including chair of the NGO Committee on the Status of Women, co-chair of the Working Group on Girls, and of the NGO Committee on UNICEF, as well as 9 years on the NGO DPI Executive Committee. She has been board chair of Girl Be Heard and ECPAT USA. In addition to being a Soroptimist and now on our UN rep team in New York, Jackie represents ECPAT USA, the US affiliate of ECPAT, an acronym for End Child Prostitution and Trafficking International. Jackie also serves on the steering group of the Committee to Stop Trafficking in Persons at the UN. Welcome, Jackie, and the floor is yours.
Thank you, and greetings to all my sisters. I would first like to applaud Sharon for including trafficking in her President's Appeal. I remember Kofi Annan once said that trafficking in humans is one of the most egregious violations of human rights that exists. And I would be remiss in my opening remarks here after 25 years at the UN if I did not give a shout out to the United Nations itself after 75 years. The United Nations is a miracle. 193 nations, large and small, different politics, different religions, different levels of economic and social development, but all dedicated and working together to achieve the 3 pillars of the United Nations, which are peace and security, human rights, economic and social development for all. And I think that goal has inspired all of us to work together and to cooperate in building a better world. The women and girls have long been at the center of the agenda of the United Nations work. The Commission on the Status of Women was created right at the beginning in 1946 to assess annually progress and impediments to advancing the rights and well-being of women and girls. 10 years ago, 4 UN entities that focused on women and girls were merged to become UN Women, a more focused and robust agency to advocate for women's rights. There are so many UN agencies and funds that have women at their heart, women and girls, and have trafficking as part of their programs. The UN has convened 4 world conferences on women, the 4th resulting in a unanimous adoption by member states of the 12 critical areas of concern, which remain the core of worldwide advocacy for women today. One of these critical areas of concern, violence against women, has a strategic objective to eliminate trafficking in women and to assist victims of violence due to prostitution and trafficking. To energize its focus on trafficking specifically, the first ever agreed on definition by the United Nations member states on trafficking is contained in the 2000 Protocol to Prevent, Suppress, and Punish Trafficking in Persons, especially women and girls, which is referred to as the Palermo Protocol. The three purposes of a protocol are stated to be to prevent, to protect, and to promote cooperation among member states. The crucial intent of a protocol, however, was that in creating a legally binding definition of trafficking, nations would then establish domestic legislation that would criminalize human trafficking and which could support then international cooperation in investigating and prosecuting trafficking cases. The UNODC, the United Nations Office of Drugs and Crime, is the lead agency in the United Nations for implementing the protocol and for assisting countries to implement it on a national level. In 2010, the General Assembly charged the UNODC to produce a biennial report on data, patterns, and flows of human trafficking worldwide. The UN Global Report on Trafficking in Persons is based on information that is obtained from the member states themselves. The 2018 report, which was based on statistics from 2014-16, states that women and girls make up 79% of those who are sexually exploited. Further, 30% of the entire number are children. According to this trafficking report, most trafficking is on the national or regional level. The International Labor Organization is the oldest of the specialized agencies at the UN. It also collects statistics on trafficking under the umbrella of modern slavery. According to ILO statistics from 2016, 40.3 million people are in modern slavery. 25% of that number are children. Of that number, 4.8 million of those are in forced sexual exploitation, and 99% of those are women and girls. Modern slavery is an estimated $150 billion business worldwide, with 66% of those profits being from sexual exploitation. So with all this information and all that the UN does to help to prevent trafficking, why are we making so little progress in reducing trafficking? Number one, the Palermo Protocol may be legally binding in international law, but implementation is weak in many countries. Many countries lack the resources. Many lack the political will, and certainly gender inequality is a major factor in not implementing the protocol. Number two is that trafficking is the third, or so it's called the third, largest criminal enterprise in the world. Vastly underreported. That's why I say it could be more than third, because it is clandestine in nature. Only 65 of the 142 countries that are included in the 2018 UNODC report have institutionalized the collecting and dissemination of any kind of data on trafficking. And third, the signing of Palermo Protocol obligates countries to have national laws against trafficking. Some do not. And even when they exist, corruption and lack of training of law enforcement and prosecutors make punishment infrequent. In 2019, in the entire world, there were only 11,000 prosecutions for trafficking and only 9,000 convictions. That's pretty pathetic. Anyhow, but I know that our group from Free the Girl will be talking about that, and I just wanted to give you a little background as to the context of the United Nations efforts for trafficking.
Thank you, Jackie. And Olga?
So our next speaker for today's webinar is Teresa Flores. I hope I spelled this correctly. She's, first of all, she's a survivor, and she makes campaigns against human trafficking, against sex trafficking, and she is the founder of a non-profit organization. She has started a project, SOAP. It's the name. She will explain what it means. And her book, the Slave Across the Street, it was the bestseller of USA Today and Wall Street Journal. Teresa, please tell us more about yourself and about your projects. We are really looking forward to hearing your stories. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Olga. Thank you so much for inviting me here today. I do have to give a shout out to the Midwest region and United States who have really supported me in my efforts the past 12 years of doing this. I did see somebody from Willimantic, Connecticut on. I went to Eastern Connecticut State University, so that's really exciting to see as well, such a support. I have been honored to win the Ruby Award. It's been quite a while, and some just really nice awards and recognition for my work from the Soroptimist. And I firmly believe I couldn't do half of what I've done without the help of the Soroptimist nationwide. So it's been my goal since I realized at 40 years of age that I was a human trafficking survivor, to speak out to all across the world and share my unique story. But then as I was speaking and realizing and meeting more survivors, I realized that my story was not so unique. I've worked with over 300 survivors, and many of them, unfortunately, have similar stories. And to me, that is unacceptable in today's day and age. You see, when I was 15 years of age, I grew up in an all-American just a middle-income family with a mom and a dad and 3 younger brothers. So I was the oldest and the only girl. And, you know, we had a very nice life. I was not abused. I was not a runaway. I did not use drugs. I was not promiscuous. So I kind of was not what we think of when you think of somebody that's been trafficked. And yet that did not exempt me from what was going to happen later. One of the things that makes my life a little unique is that we grew up moving every 2 years. My dad was a big executive, and so we moved throughout the Midwest every 2 years. And so I would say that is what made me vulnerable, because I didn't have a strong support network. I didn't have relatives, grandparents, and aunts and uncles in my town that would notice if something was different. And so every 2 years I became the new girl again at school. And I would say that I had low self-esteem. It was a little difficult to fit in every 2 years and get to know a new area. So my freshman year of high school, We moved from one city, kind of a rural area, lots of farms, to a suburban area outside of a big city, Detroit. And it was very different than anything I'd experienced. It was fast-paced. Everybody was richer than I was, had better clothing, and it was ethnically diverse. And I thought it was just amazing. I really loved it. And pretty soon I met a boy. And generally these stories start off like that. I met a really cute boy, and he was very different than any boy I had ever met before. And he started paying a lot of attention to me, just being very sweet, giving me gifts, compliments, asking me if he could walk me to class. And as a 15-year-old girl with low self-esteem, I really, really liked the attention, like most 15-year-old girls would. And my friends noticed, though, and they did not like him. They said, he's not in our group. You know, you can't date him if you want to be in our group. And I just really wanted friends more than anything at that moment. And so he would start to call my house. Now, I am Catholic, I'm Irish American, and my parents were very strict with me. And so I was not allowed to date until I was 16. And I was not allowed to receive phone calls and talk on the phone with boys either. So that probably made me want to go out with him even a little bit more, if I'm honest. So about 6 months later, he asked me after school one day if I would like a ride home from school. I was on the track team, and I had stayed after school, and I had run to my locker to get a book and noticed him standing by my locker. So here I was, 15, with a crush on this boy, and I'm not allowed to go out with him. And here he is asking me if I would like a ride home. So of course, as probably many of you would have done, I said, yeah, sure. And we went out to his car, which was brand new and beautiful. And as we pulled out of the parking lot of the high school, he turned right, but I lived left. And I said, wait, I live the other way. And he said, oh, I know, but I just need to run home and grab something that I forgot. And I will say that I was very, very naive at that age. And I said, okay, no problem. And as we went to his house, he said, hey, would you like to come inside? And I said, no, you know, I need to get home. My mom is waiting for me. I did not feel comfortable with that. And then he turned to me and he said 3 words that changed the rest of my life. He said, I like you. And I was hooked. I went in. I thought everything would be okay. I thought this was a nice boy. He showed me around his home. He gave me a Coke, and I thought that was very nice of him. Unfortunately, that Coca-Cola was drugged. And that afternoon, I was drugged and raped. He took me home that afternoon, and I made another drastic mistake. I did not tell my mother. You see, in my religion and in my faith and my family rules, we valued virginity until you got married. It was pretty important to my parents. And so I didn't want them to know that I was no longer a virgin, even though that wasn't my fault. And so I decided to keep that to myself. I thought that my mom would be angry at me, they'd be disappointed in me and see me differently, like dirty. So I thought everything will be okay. I'll just, you know, not tell anyone what happened. And several days later, I went back to school, and he said he needed to speak to me. He had pictures, and he said my 2 older brothers or my other older cousins were there. And they took these photos, and you have to earn them back or else. He said, we will kill your family. We'll show them to your father. We'll take them to where he works at. We'll post them around school. And then for me, the big one was, he said we were going to show them to the priest at church. And to me, there was just absolutely no way I could let that happen. And I really didn't know what he meant by earn them back. I thought he meant like wash their car or do their homework. But what would happen is they called my house in the middle of the night. I had my own private phone, and they would demand that I appear immediately for service. So around midnight, I would get up and I would sneak out of my house, and I would be in my pajamas and bare feet. And I would run through my backyard, through the neighbor's backyard, and wait for that car to pick me up. I do not consider myself having been a prostitute. I consider myself having been prostituted by these men. They would drive me to very rich homes all around the Detroit area, where I would be taken to a small room and have to service man after man until they were finished with me. Around 3 in the morning, they would take me back home, and I would sneak back inside and go to sleep for a few hours and get up for school the next day and do it all over again. Nobody had any idea something like that was happening to a kid like me. I was from the good side of the tracks. And I will say, though, that there were red flags. My grades dropped from A's and B's to D's and F's. But they thought, oh, she's just having a hard time adjusting to the new school. I was sick all the time. I had migraines and stomach aches and didn't want to go to school. But they thought it was just growing pains. And I became withdrawn and jumpy. And they thought it's just, Teresa being Teresa. And I wasn't talking. I didn't tell anybody what happened. Like I said, they threatened to kill my brothers and my family, and they followed me everywhere. I had absolutely no idea at 15 years of age how to get out of this. I remember being in a home somewhere, someplace, and my trafficker walking in with an older man. And the older man said something to me nobody ever said. He said, "What's your name?" And I was shocked because nobody had ever asked me that, because they don't really care. I didn't answer him because we're not allowed to speak. And he asked my trafficker, "What's her name?" And the trafficker looked at him disgusted and said, "What does it matter? She has no name." Now, to hear that will really break your soul into pieces. I didn't know what to do. And then he said to my trafficker, "Never mind, I've changed my mind," and he walked out. Now, on one hand, I was excited because I could go home and go back to bed. But on the other hand, I was devastated because he didn't say, "Hey, how old are you? Do you want to be here? Can I get you out of here?" Because he didn't know. He didn't know that I wasn't there by choice. He didn't know that I was being trafficked. I don't get very angry about this anymore. I can't change that. But what I can change is how this is happening to other girls currently. And the one person I will say that I am angry at might surprise you. I'm angry at my neighbor who saw me at midnight run through his backyard in my pajamas and bare feet and meet a car, and he never said anything to my parents. I am very emphatic about people. If you see something, you need to say something. It doesn't matter if you're wrong, because had he said something to my parents, then I could have been saved. It could have been, less time doing that. But he never did. Well, what did he think? Did he think I was going out partying? I was in my pajamas. So it was a very, very hard time in my life. 2 years this lasted, with not knowing who to talk to and how to get out of it. No teacher helped me, no principal, no school nurse, nobody. And again, I wasn't talking because the stakes were so high. On my worst night, I went out to meet that car again. And by now, I'm pretty much a zombie. I'm trying to figure out how to get out of it. And I'm starting to lose hope. And something was different that night, though. There was a different driver in that car. And they kidnapped me that night. and drugged me and took me really far away from home. When the car stopped, we ended up at a little motel in the middle of the inner city Detroit. And there, 21 men met me at a motel, and they sold me, auction style, to the highest bidder until I literally passed out. The next morning, I woke up. I was all alone and naked, and I found my pajamas, and I put them on, and I just started walking around the parking lot of this inner city Detroit motel. Here I was, 16 years old. I had no shoes, no money, not even a penny, no license, no identification on me, no idea where I was. It didn't matter at that moment that we had 5 bathrooms in our home or that we had just gotten back from Disney World. At that moment, I had nothing, and I had no idea what to do. But I do believe in angels, and I believe that God always sends somebody to meet you and help you in a tragic moment like this. Sometimes we just don't recognize them. I stumbled into a little motel there that was attached to the hotel, to the motel, a little diner, and I just stood there. I was in shock, and a waitress noticed me. Here was somebody that was pouring coffee to homeless men at 3 in the morning. And she looked at me and she said something to me nobody ever said. She said, "Can I help you?" Wow, how easy is that to do? Can I help you? But at that moment, I was just lost. I was a lost soul. And I said, "No, I'm fine." And as silly as that sounds now, I still remember that that's what I had to say. But luckily for me, she didn't believe me, and she saved my life. She called the police, and they brought me home that morning. Now, that's not the end of my story. It took me quite a long while after that to actually escape and to get my life back in order. Since then, I've gone to college. I have a license of social work and a master's in counseling education, and I went on to get married and have 3 beautiful children and a grandchild. So on the other side, it can get better. So 10 years ago, when I was listening to a seminar, a conference on human trafficking, I heard this word, human trafficking, and I never knew what that word was. And at that conference, I learned that that word was me. And I was shocked, because here I am, an educated woman who lived that and didn't know that was me. And I figured how many others don't know that this is happening to them as well, or that this is the sort of kind of human trafficking that happens frequently here. So I started the SOAP project, and it stands for Save Our Adolescents from Prostitution, because we know here that 77% of adult prostitutes were trafficked as children. And again, that is unacceptable. So I created SOAP, and what we do is we have people put labels on little bars of soap and makeup remover wipes, and we put on the labels, are you being held against your will? Are you being able to leave? And we ask them to call this hotline number. And so then what we do is we hand them out to motels and hotels for free. We give them lots of educational information on human trafficking. And along with that, probably the most important thing is that we give them a missing children's poster of kids that are being missing around their area, young girls. Because we know that after 2 days, if we can't find them, most likely they're being sold. So we have found many, many young girls by doing this SOAP project all across the country. And it is something that makes me very happy. I received a text one day, and it said, "You're the reason that I'm free. I found your bar of soap in a Chicago hotel, and it gave me the courage to call and be free." Now, we've never done soap in Chicago, so somehow that soap landed in a city that we've never done it before. But besides doing the SOAP project, we also hold retreats. I was meeting a lot of survivors, and they were still so broken. And like I said, I've had a really blessed life of being able to go to college and get counseling and have a wonderful support system now. But a lot of these women don't have that. So I started to hold retreats for survivors of human trafficking to be able to share with them how to heal, how to forgive, how to trust again. And so we have had over 300 women come through our retreats. We've had 6 retreats, and we even had one donated to us by Charisma Resorts in Punta Cana, Dominican Republic. And so we're always looking for new places to hold retreats. It's something very special to us to be able to pour into these women. They still feel so unworthy. We have had girls from 18 years of age to 71 years of age come to our retreats that are survivors. I will tell you about 40–45% of them have been trafficked by their family. They have no supports. They have left these families, and so we come in and we help them, you know, maybe buy some tires for their car or pay their rent during COVID because they have no family. And then lastly, I just do want to also talk to you. I have several books out. You can see on the screen there, The Slave Across the Street. That's my 10-year anniversary edition. And that one is new. I wanted to update it because like someone was saying earlier, so much has happened in the last 10 years. But this one talks a lot about the after story, about, you know, what happens once you escape this, the PTSD, the Stockholm Syndrome, and what it took spiritually for me to survive and be in the place that I am right now. I also have a UK version that is by Random House. That is a little bit different version. I believe probably all they did was change the word mom to mum, but it's still a good addition as well. So I do want to close by saying that in order to stop this, it's going to take more than a retreat and more than a bar of soap, unfortunately. It's going to take each and every one of us to talk to the United Nations, to talk to your local law enforcement agencies, to talk to your local judges about going after the demand, right? We can rescue girls all day long, and it's not going to be a drop in the bucket for how many are being trafficked. We have to change our laws. We have to get stronger on our laws, and we have to help them go after these traffickers and the men that are buying them. The men that are buying these girls, it is unacceptable. So I just hope that you will join me in this mission. If you're interested in the SOAP project, it's soapproject.org. And my book is available on Amazon. But if you have a hotline number, we can do SOAP in your country no matter where you are. I love to fly, so as soon as all this craziness gets over, I am available to come and speak to your groups. I have done that quite a lot, but just thank you so much again for supporting SOAP all these years, and for really being a great support system to me. You, the Soroptimist, have helped me heal. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Teresa. Ayushi, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. It's my pleasure this evening to introduce you all to Evelien Holsken, who is the founder and director of Free a Girl, with whom Soroptimist International will launch its latest partnership under the SI Road to Equality President's Appeal. Evelien is a freedom fighter, a creator, social activist, and a change maker. She is determined to end sexual exploitation of children and fight for justice for those who are sexually exploited by ending impunity. In the course of achieving her mission, Evelien has already rescued more than 4,500 girls, each of whom have been given the chance to start a new life. She will be joined by Nicole Franken in today's presentation. Nicole presently serves as the campaign manager at Free a Girl. Over to you, Evelien and Nicole. The floor is yours.
Well, thank you so much, Sharon, for this opportunity to tell about the organization and my personal motivations, why I started Free Girl. And thank you, Teresa, for sharing your story. It's something so empowering that it's an important part of our program as well, to empower survivors to change the system. And we really believe in that. And I'm really happy to see that you are doing fine now and that you are healed and that you made something which was so negative in something positive. Thank you for that. So who am I? Next slide, please. My name is Evelien. I'm the founder, one of the founders of Free Girl. I founded the organization with 3 other persons. I'm 50 years old. I just turned 50. I'm living in the Netherlands, and I started Free Girl in 2008. Before, I was already working in development aid and in development organizations. And when I found out personally that girls, I first found out about the fact that girls were actually like locked up in cages, and that was an article that I wrote in a newspaper in 2007. And I was so shocked. Those girls were taken away from their parents. They were lured into prostitution. The youngest girl was like 11 years old. They were locked up in cages and like raped 10 or 20 times a day. And when I read that, I thought, this is so horrible. And I almost wanted to put it away because it's really a dark topic that nobody really wants to talk about and just forget about it. But there was something within me that I thought, okay, if everybody thinks that way, nothing will change. We can all be the change maker. So why can I be one of that persons? And it's I also believe a bit in angels, and I also believe that if you have a mission and a strong wish to change something into something positive, that you get a lot of help. And that's what happened on the road to when I started Free Girl and where we are now. Next slide, please. Okay, what our organization, what is our mission? We believe that every child should grow up in a safe environment, and every child should be protected against any form of sexual exploitation. Now, how do we do that? We work together with local partner organizations in the countries where we work. And we have our own offices we started in the Netherlands, Amsterdam. We recently opened a small office in New York, and we have an office in Mumbai. But we work through local organizations with local people because they know the culture and they know exactly what to do. Next slide, please. Okay, we were already at the beginning of the presentation. We talked about, Teresa talked about a lot of conventions that are there. I mean, if you look at the Convention on the Rights of the Child, the Stockholm Declaration, the Rio Declaration, almost every country ratified that. And there are a lot of sustainable development goals who also relate to protection and to anti-human trafficking. But the thing is that the reality is very much different because there is not a really good implementation of all these conventions, and it has a lot to do with corruption as well. Next slide, please. Okay, how big is the problem? There's a mistake here in this slide. I'm sorry about that. We are talking about 2 million children. It's an estimation that are every day exploited. They are in a situation of sexual exploitation. 95% of them are girls, and 1.2 million are actually in India. In India, the problem is really the biggest. And we focus on the countries where we can actually make a difference and where the problem is really big. Next slide, please. So, yeah, COVID has a huge impact on child trafficking. As you all know, that violence against women and girls has intensified during the different lockdowns, which are still there in different countries. And we expect that sexual exploitation of children will increase. Why? Because the economies in the countries that Free Girl is working in, like India, Nepal, Bangladesh, they are really hit by COVID, and it also means that people don't have any other choices than sell their bodies or sell their children, and that's actually what is happening more and more in the countries that we work in. What we also see is our work is very difficult these days, because before we supported like rescue teams, and they go in red light districts, they go undercover and find out where the children are. But now it already went online, but due to COVID, that has increased. So what you see now is that girls are put before a webcam, or you can just order them online like a pizza. They will just deliver to your house. Or what we also see, we just did a rescue last week. That's what the pimps are doing. They take the girls to their private houses and let the clients come over there. And so for us, it's more difficult to find them. So we are really happy that last year we already started with the online investigation by training our partner organizations and to employ ECT forensic people who can actually do like the research work. And then our rescue teams can together with the police and the law enforcement agencies, they will get the girls out. But the way that the traffickers and the pimps are working these days completely changed. Next slide, please. So this is the whole framework that we made. Our overall objective is that all children in the world are protected from sexual exploitation, but we cannot do it all. We actually focus very much on law enforcement and on the children themselves by rescue them, law enforcement agencies to train them. Also to do the police work that actually the NGOs are doing now, but the police should do that. We assist the children in their legal procedures because we find it very important, and we focus on fighting impunity. But to have like the holistic approach, we work together with other organizations, like for example ACPAT International. We work with Plan International. We work with Teresa, because they all have their own like specialty. And we really believe in building a network, and that not every organization should do their part. We should cooperate. And in this way, we can actually work towards the objective and make sure that sexual exploitation of children will end. Next slide, please. Yeah, what I said, the role of Free Girl is the focus on children. So get them out of the situation of exploitation and focus on the law enforcement agencies to fight impunity. Next slide, please. Yeah, so we are really proud about the program that was developed in 2017. And Nicole will tell you all about it. We are really proud of it's a really innovative program, because what we found out, I heard this earlier this evening, is that we can continue rescuing girls, but if girls are too ashamed to stand up and report their case, nothing will happen. And we found out that only 10%, that's a worldwide estimation, that only 1 out of 10 girls report their case. And that has to do with the fact that there is a lot of shaming and blaming in lots of cultures. The survivors are too afraid to go to the police. They don't believe in the legal system, and they just want to forget what happened to them. And then we said, okay, but what if we try to educate girls to become the change makers themselves, and to make sure that they go to university, or they follow another human rights related profession, that they can actually in the future, but also in the process, already starting by becoming a change maker. So we really feel that the change will come from the survivors themselves, because they are determined to change the system. And what you often see in the countries where Free Girl is working is that they get some education or vocational training. They can become a hairdresser or or open a beauty parlor, a shop, which is also okay. But there is potential in a lot of girls who can actually have higher education. So that's what we started in 2017 with the first group of the School for Justice students, and we're really proud that that this program was made possible by the Soroptimist. Without the Soroptimist in the Netherlands, we could never
Henry
do it.
likes this one. I know.
So it's we have now 3 schools, 3 programs, 2 in India, 1 in Nepal, and yeah, we would like to have this program in every single country where sexual exploitation of children happens. But I will give the word now to Nicole, my colleague, and she will tell you all about the program and about the campaign that we are really excited about. And in this campaign, Sharon is playing a role as well. So Nicole, the floor is yours.
Well, thank you for having us, and thank you for sharing your heartbreaking story, Teresa. My name is Nicole Franken, and I joined Free Girl almost 9 years ago as an all-round campaign manager, focusing on expanding our School for Justice programs worldwide. I'm a social activist and a human interest photographer. Next slide, please. In 2017, Free Girl founded the School for Justice in India, and in 2019 we opened the 2nd school in India, and we are about to open the 3rd one in Nepal. Like Evelien just mentioned, programs where survivors of sexual exploitation are able to become the best lawyers, amongst others, in their country. Our aim is to educate the survivors so they can bring those responsible to justice. We want to spark the conversation so they can become a change agent, grow support, and change the system from within. To fight impunity and raise awareness about sexual exploitation of children on a national and even better on an international platform. Now I would like to inform you about the context in Nepal to have a better understanding of the campaign we are launching. Every year, over 15,000 Nepali underage girls are trafficked and sexually exploited. But traffickers, pimps, and rapists are rarely punished for their crimes. In fact, most girls do not even start a legal procedure. Evelien already mentioned this, but reasons that prevent Nepali victims from starting such a legal procedure include a shame and blame culture and fear for what's out there. Next slide, please. Well, therefore, we created the campaign Voice for Justice, because even for a girl at the School for Justice, stepping up against her own offenders is a daunting task. And that is exactly what is needed directly to break the cycle of impunity. Filing a case is the first step towards getting offenders behind bars. That is why Free Girl starts the campaign Voice for Justice with well-known women, including your own Sharon, to speak up for one School for Justice student from Nepal by reading out a part of her legal complaint. This footage is to be used in a worldwide campaign video which aims to mobilize women around the world to contribute to the complaint as well, to embrace this specific case. So this School for Justice student feels strong enough to file a complaint against the perpetrators and to motivate other survivors of sexual exploitation to do so as well. Well, within a couple of weeks of this year, we will launch the Voice for Justice campaign in Nepal, in India, the Netherlands, the UK, and also in the States. Women such as Amal Clooney, Gillian Anderson, our own Famke Janssen, Marianne Pearl, and just like I said, Sharon Fisher, and many other women around the world committed themselves to this campaign. So what can you do? Well, since Sharon is part of the Voice for Justice campaign as well, and you're one of the big back donors of the School for Justice programs, it would be more than wonderful if you all could worldwide or are willing to share this Voice for Justice campaign video on your own personal social media channels to help us raise awareness about sexual exploitation of children and impunity. Oh, I'm so sorry, I'm completely stuck in my story. Next slide, please. Yeah, thank you. In addition, we would like to ask if you can do a voice donation by reading out the story of Renuka. This is the School for Justice student where it's all about as well. And the voice or your voices will be part of the collective complaint to encourage this girl, Renuka, and all survivors of sexual exploitation worldwide to step forward and to file a complaint against their perpetrators in order to fight impunity together. And then once you have donated your voice, it's a bit technical, but we will supply you with all the materials. We will create a short video of these recordings, which you can share on your social media channels as well, including the request to your own network to donate their voice in line with what you did. Just like I said, of course, we will supply you with a media kit, including the campaign video and several other social media posts to boost the campaign. So it would be more than wonderful if we can all embrace this case. Next slide, please. Then I would like to share with you our first campaign video when we launched the School for Justice in India, to have a better feeling and understanding of the program and what we are aiming for. Please go ahead.
For years, child prostitution has grown in India. For years, our girls were forced to take clients every day. For years, the men that visited and raped these girls could walk away unpunished. That is about to change. 3 years ago started the School for Justice. School where rescued girls are educated to become the best lawyers and prosecutors in the country, to put everyone involved in child prostitution behind bars. Believe us, they are passionate to do so.
Thank you, Nicole. And thank you so much to all the amazing speakers we've had on today. I see so many different connections. We had an appeal in Nepal 2 years ago, so we're quite familiar with the situation there and are so happy to join the campaign. And as we look around our own communities and our own countries and our own world, we may now see things with a different lens and be prepared to speak up and advocate to create the change we need to see. Before we go to our question and answer period, I just have 2 announcements. The first is regarding our next webinar, which will be September 24th. And in that, we're back on the virtual bus, taking a deeper look at the inequalities faced by older women. And you just heard that older women are also victims of trafficking. So it will be very, very interesting. We have some great speakers lined up. And also, I want to announce that we're now on Instagram at Soroptimist Global. So you have another option for social media, and that makes the lab. So Facebook, Twitter, and now Instagram. I want to thank everybody for attending, and this will be recorded. It will be on our website, and as we all know, multiple other places it will make its way to. And I'm going to stop the recording, and then we will have some questions that Claire has put together for us from the chat, and the speakers can answer. I know we're a little over time, but we'll answer what we can. Thank you very much.